the topic today is going to be about the connection between mental and physical health. A lot of you know that I did I started doing psychedelic therapy last year. So last year I had a bit of a low point in my life. I had gotten out of a relationship and work. I was kind of trying to figure out what I actually wanted to do with my career. I don't want to physically do this kind of work anymore. So I was kind of in limbo with that. Plus the breakup, it was really, it was kind of like everything all at once. And at that time, I just let myself be depressed. I was depressed, and I've had depression my whole life. Sadly, I've had suicidal ideation my whole life since I was like 9 or 10. And I do feel like sometimes it's important just to feel what you're feeling. It was like, I'm depressed, I don't want to talk to anyone. So I did that. And then I realized I do tend to isolate when I get depressed. And I realized that's just a trauma response from childhood, because growing up, I'm the youngest of 5, but we were not emotionally supported. And if we had a problem, we weren't really allowed to go to my parents for help. And they would just get angry. And my brothers and sisters and I were very much every man for themselves. So I learned as a child to deal with everything on my own. It's also why I'm very good at my job. I realized everything that makes me good at my job in terms of like being in control, having my own business, not having to, be accountable to anyone else necessarily, as all trauma responses from childhood, which is, it's, I guess, good and bad. But anyway, I was isolating, and I wanted to kind of break out of that. So I started reaching out to other people, friends, and, support people. And I realized that no one was actually helping. I found that all the responses that I was getting back weren't terribly supportive or helpful. And I don't mean that against anyone that I know and love, because it was not their intention not to make me feel better. But the whole idea of like, you'll get over it, or, give it time, and, at least you had something good, and now that's out there. That wasn't terribly helpful at the time. So what I did was, because I think this is important, the whole topic, the whole main takeaway of my talk today is about the importance of every now and then. And it's going to be different for everyone, whether it's every 6 months, whether it's every year, whether it's every 3 years, of doing a kind of mental check, a mental and physical reevaluation of everything that's going on in your life. And looking at all the different aspects of your life and seeing what you can improve, how you can improve it, and what you can actually do to help yourself, and not just sit in the puddle of sadness that some of us can get into. And I think that we can get into that whether or not you have depression or not. I mean, sometimes in life, things just suck, And the thread that I put out today was a thing that I try to do for myself, and also with my clients. I find it very helpful with my clients in terms of when we get fixated on a problem that we have, or this is an issue, blah, blah, blah. I like to frame it as, well, this is a solvable problem. The window's broken, it's a solvable problem. We ordered a table, it came broken, it's a solvable problem. It's annoying, but it's solvable. So back last year, about a year and a half ago, I realized, okay, I'm in a bad state. And it's not that I was just depressed from the breakup and work and everything. It was more like I saw my role in why we broke up. And I took responsibility because listen, all my friends were like, you did nothing wrong. It was all him, which is not true. And it's, because I think that's what we do to our friends. It's like, you didn't do anything wrong. you're great, it was just the circumstances, or it was just the other person. And sometimes that's not true. No one is perfect. And I realized that I had a lot of inner work that I needed to do. So at that time, I started listening to I got into spirituality. I don't normally say that word when I'm talking about it with you guys, because I do feel like that word, again, I'm not big into labels, but I do think that tends to turn some people off, because I don't personally believe in God in terms of, Jesus or his father or Allah or Muhammad or whomever else is a God to anyone in terms of like religious. So that word can be off-putting, and a lot of people that I've shared these podcasts, which are all related to books, by the way. My favorite is Eckhart Tolle, Michael Singer, Brene Brown's another good one. They do talk about God a lot, and people get thrown off by it. And, along with my whole belief of I don't like labels, is that you don't have to take everything for what it is. You don't have to take everything verbatim. When they start talking about God, I interpret it my own way. And honestly, when they're talking about it, they're talking about the God within. That when they're talking about God, they're talking about like your true essence. So that's how I look at it. I don't see it as an outward guide in the sky or whatever. And if that's what you believe, that's great. I mean, more to you. But I realized I needed a plan. We'll see if I can read anything if you guys make comments. If you want to make comments, please jump in. I don't mind being interrupted. So back then, I realized, okay, I have a problem. I'm not in good shape mentally, physically. So what can I do to help myself? I stopped working. For the most part, I decided to really take the time to concentrate on myself and do this inner work. I started listening to all of these podcasts. Again, they're all related to books. The books are The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, Michael Singer, The Untethered Soul, and then I think The New Untethered Soul or something. Brene Brown has a bunch of books. And all of these things deal with the objective way our minds work, our thoughts work, and our emotions work. And I've been wanting to do psychedelic therapy for years because of my depression, and it just so happened that a friend of mine had mentioned she was doing it for the first time. So it was perfect. It was, I feel like when I ask specifically for something, my guardian angel usually gives it to me, but I have to be very specific, and he brought that work to me. So I started doing that, and I've done many other lives for it. And it's really been unbelievably life-changing. Let me put my glasses on. Now, there's many books on it. There's a lot of TV shows. On Netflix, there's a bunch of specials. Michael Pollan's talked a lot about it, about this psychedelic therapy. And I will say that if you're watching any of that, take it with a grain of salt, because everyone's experience is different. And even though the group that I did it with were giving you technical hero doses, which is a high dose, very potent, everyone's experience is a little different. I would say I've only had positive experiences. That's not true. But all of the things that I've learned from these therapies have been very positive. And I've spoken a lot about specifically what I've learned in my previous lives, which are all on my Reels page, so you guys can look at that. But I've decided to stop and take a break from this work because the last one I did, it was my 13th with the same group, and they offer a combination of ayahuasca and mushrooms. Now, ayahuasca is incredibly intense, and the group that I do it with, it's not as potent as if you went to Costa Rica and did it. We're not standing up, we're not vomiting. Most people aren't anyway. They only give it to a few people at a time, because when I'm going to this group, it's about 22 of us doing this journey. They put us in a separate room because it can be intense. And my last experience, I did the ayahuasca, and there's 4 people that run the group that are running the whole thing. And then there's other lower guides that come in and out that help. Now, there's one person that runs the group that wasn't there, and he is my emotional anchor. And I didn't realize at the time how important it was for him to be there when I'm having these journeys. And I learned that night. So I did the ayahuasca, and it comes on very quickly. And I had some hallucinations, but it wasn't anything specific. It was more of a feeling, this deep feeling of something bad is about to happen. Like, you're going to be physically attacked. You cannot trust anyone here. And I didn't understand, because you're kind of hallucinating and you're kind of coming in and out of consciousness. I was very lucid. I had a very hard time knowing what was real and what was not. Was I still, because you're on the mat on the floor, you've got your eye mask on, you're under the covers, but I couldn't figure out, am I still on the mat or am I walking around the house? Because it's in this big beautiful house, which was very scary. Now, normally during these journeys, I understand what's happening. I understand, I'm somewhere else. I'm talking to my subconscious. It's very positive. So anyway, maybe without getting into too much detail, I got incredibly scared, and I wasn't supported in the way that I thought I needed. And so I had a terrible experience, and I realized afterwards, because it takes hours to go through your system, that this needed to happen. I think if this person that's my anchor was there, I think my experience would have been better. But then I wouldn't have seen that I need to take a break. I need to actually pivot. So when I was done, I spoke to the other head people, and I realized, that this is not, it's helped in so many ways, but with the suicidal ideation, that has not budged. It budged in the beginning when I first started doing this work, but it's actually back. And I feel in my heart, like that night, I was like, the psychedelic work is not helping with the suicidal ideation. And I think what I need to do is shift. So I realized this month that, listen, just because something has been working for you for 10 years, a year and a half, 3 months, however, time doesn't really matter. It doesn't mean that you should continue doing it. It doesn't mean that it's still helping. And while all my other journeys totally helped and have helped me in so many ways, I realized I was almost relying on it too much, because I was doing it once every 3 weeks, once every 3 to 4 weeks. And it's also not about getting high. Like, let me just clarify that. The psychedelic therapy, the purpose of it is not to get high. It's not like I'm addicted to being high, because it's not the experience that when you're doing it medicinally, that's the main goal. It's all just connecting to your subconscious. So, which was really great. And I realized, this is the time I need to stop, take my own advice, and pivot. So, because I think that's really important. And I think that so many people don't take the time to do that. They do it with work, they have their 5-year plans, but they don't necessarily take the time to do it personally. So what I've done, and I want to share it with you because I think it's we're all the same, right? So the first thing that I realized is, like, I had a conversation with him. I said, I'm not gonna do this work. One thing I've realized as a self-reformed shopaholic, when you have a specific addiction, you can't just stop doing something. And I'm not saying I was addicted to psychedelic therapy, but I'm saying it was therapeutic. And so was shopping at the time, when I was shopping like uncontrollably. You cannot just stop something and then just move on. You have to actually replace it with something else. That's why a lot of times you hear if someone has, they went from drugs to sex, or they went from sex to drugs, or they went from alcohol to eating, because you can't, because the things that we do give us something, and you can't just deny yourself what it's actually giving to you, even though what you're doing around it is bad. So I realized, okay, I'm going to stop doing this therapy, but I need to replace this, basically looking forward, for the last 13 months, and not 100%, but for the last 13 months, that therapy was kind of all I had to look forward to. That's how I felt. It was this one big thing that I was doing that was so positive, and the people were so great, and I really looked forward to doing it. So it's actually makes it harder to step away because I enjoy it so much and I get so much out of it. But I realized that I can always go back to it. I need to change. So so I looked at all the different things in my life to see what is still the problem, by the way. And my problem is the truth is I have a lot of insecurities, physically, work-wise, that the psychedelic therapy has helped, but it's still there. It's just like anything else. I think it's like, have you ever noticed if you're like doing something in your apartment, in your house, and you're like, oh, I have to fix that chair is broken, and then you get the new chair, and then all of a sudden you're like, ooh, I should repaint, and then you repaint, and then you're like, oh, I should work on the lighting. You start fixing all these things, and then you see what else is there. So so I realized that my deep insecurities, which I am still working on, I need to do something different for it. So while I'm still focusing on my mental health, which is I have that Spotify playlist. That's the Healing 101. It's all the podcasts and all the books that are related to them that I really studied last year. I listened to them over and over and over again because it was understanding it conceptually, then understanding personally, and then integrating these lessons into your life, which took a lot of time, which I did. So that playlist is there for you guys to look at and listen to anytime you want. I've moved on to Eckhart Tolle's Essential Teachings. It's just like every few days he'll just post, one of his talks, one of his hour-long or half-long talks. So I do that. That kind of keeps me grounded spiritually. The other thing that I'm doing is getting out more. When you're doing a lot of this inner work, you tend to isolate. And I didn't realize that at first. And of course I was like, oh, you're isolating, that's a bad thing. But the more you read up on all of this stuff, when you're doing this kind of deep inner work, you do tend to isolate. You have a cocoon period, which is totally normal and totally helpful. But I realized that after a year and a half, I need to get back out there. So I've been reaching out to friends more, and all of my friends have been very supportive. And they've been reaching out, but they've also been giving me a lot of space. So I've been reaching out to them more and saying, let's go to lunch, let's go to the botanical gardens. I've been going to museums more. I'm going to the Brooklyn Botanical Gardens next week. So getting out and actually doing the things that I used to do all the time before COVID, COVID really messed everything up. So just literally getting out of the house and being with friends and being around beautiful artwork and everything is very important for anyone's mental health. So, that's on my little list of, when I'm on Instagram and when I'm with friends or I see what they're doing, it's like, oh, I want to go to that museum, I'll go to that restaurant. So it's, again, something to look forward to, something different, something to take yourself out of your mind, because I've realized I've gotten a little too in my mind. The other important thing on the emotional side that I've really added to what I'm doing every day is telling myself the truth. Now, in psychedelic therapy, they talk about, between 0 and 7 years old, you're not fully conscious yet, and all these things happen to you, and you create stories around them, right? So the easiest example is, my parents didn't give us a lot of attention because they were so wrapped up in their hatred towards each other that we didn't get a lot of physical attention, we didn't get a lot of emotional attention, and as a child you think, oh, my parents don't love me, I must be unlovable. It must be me. So we create stories in our heads that these things happen, it must be my fault. It must be a defect on me. Not that they're just fucked up in their own way, has nothing to do with me. So a lot of the work, a lot of this internal work is about telling yourself the truth. Because we lie to ourselves all day long. And when you're lying to yourself, the voice in your head that's telling you all these horrible things about yourself is your ego. I did a reel, if you guys don't know my bus analogy, which is on my Reels page. It's basically all the different voices in your head and helping to identify them. And it's a bus. Everyone's on the bus. No one can get on, no one can get off, but there's only one driver at a time. And certain people need to be sitting in the back and not nowhere near the driver and not distracting that person. But it's all about identifying who's in your mind talking. So the truth is about, like this morning, I woke up and I was saying all these awful things about myself. You're unlovable, you're unlikable, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, that's just my ego talking. Now I'm identifying this voice in my head because we all identify that voice in our head as us. If, I'm saying this horrible thing or I'm saying this thing about me or someone else, it must be me thinking it. Where it's like, it's actually not the way the brain works, which I know doesn't make any sense. It doesn't, it just seems so weird that we would evolve that way. But it is the truth. So when this voice comes up this morning, I was like, I just tell myself, and here's the thing, they call it a spiritual practice because that's what it is. It's practice. You have to do it every day. You have to incorporate these things into your everyday life. So as these voices are coming into my head, trying to make me cry, trying to make me feel bad, I have this little, like a signpost of saying, oh, that's my ego. What's the truth? And once you do that, over and over and over again, it becomes habit. So that's why it's practice. So whenever I get into these situations where I'm like rambling on about how awful I am and no one loves me and blah, 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 it's like, oh, wait, what's the truth? Who's speaking right now? Oh, it's my ego. And my ego is a liar. So it's like, okay, ego, be quiet, go in the back, and what is the truth? And I give myself, like I find it helpful for me to give myself rational responses. Well, what's the truth? Well, I get so many beautiful messages from you guys on Instagram saying how this is all helpful. And you guys say like the nicest things to me. And that's the truth. I can't imagine anyone's going to send me something about how much you like me and lying about it. Just like the people that I follow, that I tell them beautiful things about themselves because they're helpful to me. So, or just about my friends and, anything else, my clients, they all love me and this and that. So like, that's the truth. The other thing that I've realized is my physical environment. So I'm looking at this in terms of like, okay, my emotional, my physical environment. I think it's really important when you kind of get stuck every now and then to look at your physical environment and to see, what can I do? The easiest thing is to do an edit. Now, I've really edited this apartment last year. That was part of my inner work. That was part of one of the things that I was doing, of really going through every single thing I own 17 times to just keep letting go and letting go. But I realized I've well edited, but I needed to do a little bit of a refresh. Both of my windows are broken. I haven't bothered my landlord about it. So I emailed my landlord and I've got, one is fixed, the other one's getting fixed next week. I got a new fridge. My fridge has been broken for so long. It's been working, not working. And it's like, fix the fridge. What does that say? Oh, I recaulked my shower. My shower gets moldy and it gets moldy and it's sitting there disgusting. And I take a shower and it's disgusting. So it's like, okay, let's recaulk that. I repainted my floors just to give it a refresh. All of these things make such a difference. And it's like, I took the time to repaint the floors the other day. It didn't take long. And I'm just sitting here and I was like, thank you for doing that. Thank you. I can open my freaking window now without using a stick. So all these little things that make such a huge difference. So I did that. My physical environment, and also this chair that I'm sitting on, it's this boucle chair, originally from CB2 that I got during COVID. And when I got it, it was already ripped. Like I saw one of the seams being stretched, but it was COVID. It was impossible to get anything. And I was just like, fuck it. I'm just not even going to bother. I'm lucky I got this chair at all. And sitting on it every single day for 3 years, however long it's been, it just got disgusting and it totally ripped. And I got a knockoff one for half the price at Josh in Maine. But that's what kind of started it. It was like, I'm getting into this rut of having all of these things around me that I can improve, but I'm just kind of ignoring them, which I think is what a lot of us do. when you're living with something for so long, whether it's a fridge that kind of is on the fritz, whether it's a window that doesn't really work, whether it's a chair that's ripped and kind of gross, you all of a sudden stop seeing it. And that's kind of the point of what I'm trying to say today, is that, and even like the psychedelic therapy, it was working, and it was doing a lot of positive things to me. It was really helping me. But when you keep doing it and not stopping and just taking a look back, I realized it's been great, but it's not what I need moving forward. And sometimes it's good to just step back and say, all right, what's going on in the world around me, and what can I actually improve? The other thing that I've been working on is my physical health. Now, last year, when I started doing all of this inner work and the psychedelic therapy, I realized my mental health needed to take the center stage. But along with that, I realized my physical health needed to go along with that. So it was like my mental health was number one, my physical health was kind of number two. I started exercising more. I realized that I have a mold issue that I've discussed. I've had intestinal issues that I realized I had. I got diagnosed like 2 years ago, which was totally screwing up my body, the way it looked, the way I felt. It was like physically painful, physically uncomfortable. I gained a lot of weight, and I realized that's all part of the process. You know, when you have a problem, the solution is not usually one thing. It's not usually like what I'm talking about here. It's like my physical health, right? I realized I have to get back to the doctor because my intestinal issue is back, and she confirmed it's back. Along with that, I need to eat better. I'm ordering in too much. So I need to eat better. I need to go to the grocery store. I've figured out a bunch of like new things I can eat, because eating is actually kind of a pain in the ass to me. I wish there was a pill that you could take and be a snake and eat like one meal a day, or like one meal a week, and that would be great. So it's often something I avoid dealing with, of finding like food that I like and I will eat. But I'm realizing that's part of the problem. The other big thing that I decided to do is stop drinking. I started the habit of drinking practically every day years ago, when I was really sick with the mold allergy. Because I was so sick, and honestly the people around me were like, you have cancer, you're dying. Like, there's no way that you're this sick and not something's wrong with you. And I've done a reel talking about that, a video on that a while back, talking about the mold allergy and the symptoms and stuff. So the only thing I look forward to at the end of the day was a cocktail, because it made me feel better. And I was gonna feel sick the next day anyway. It was like living with the worst hangover of your life every single day without actually drinking. So I started drinking a little bit then, and then COVID. I live alone. What else was there to do? And it just got too much of a habit. And I've spoken to a lot of friends about it, and I found a lot of people during COVID had that same problem of just like kind of relying on it. It was, again, it's something to look forward to. So now I've realized, and the other thing is this, with the drinking, not drinking is solving a number of my problems, okay? First of all, it disrupts it's disrupted. The doctor was like, I'm not sure, I don't know if I can give you an answer on why you would have this SIBO, small intestine bacterial overgrowth. I share it with you because it gives you abdominal pain, you feel bloated, you feel very uncomfortable, your lower abdomen gets distended. It's a common thing but no one knows about. So most people just suffer from it and never get diagnosed and never get help, and then they wonder why they can't lose weight, or why they feel sick, or why they're bloated all the time. But I told the doctor, I'm like, I drink too much, and she's like, oh yeah, well that'll do it. Drinking is gonna mess up your intestines and your stomach. So not drinking is gonna help with that. It's going to help with, because I realized, oh, it's also helping with my financials, because that's the next thing I'll talk about is my finances. It's expensive. It's expensive to be drinking. And the one thing that really pushed me over the edge of it, like, I needed that one last thing to tell myself, like, okay, I really need a good reason not to drink. And I realized that it's aging me. I'm 49, and I've done all these things all my life to, like, not going in the sun, wearing sunscreen every day, and, you know, serums and blah, 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 sleeping and drinking water and all these things. And yet, just to stay, you know, just to age well, and yet here I am drinking, which is kind of counteracting everything. So I was actually at a party the other day, and a friend sent me a photo of me from kind of far away, and I look like I was dead. I look like I was dead. I was in a coffin, and it was awake. And I realized, yeah, that's from drinking. That's how bad you look. I hope I don't look bad right now. But I realized, okay, so that's a good thing to stop doing. And again, now, drinking gave me something to look forward to. It was just something to do. It's something to pass the time. So now I'm replacing that with all my other things, with refreshing the apartment, with going out with friends, exercising more. Thank you. Someone said you look beautiful. Thank you so much. So now it's when I feel like I want to have a cocktail, I say to myself, yeah, okay, I would like one. But I sit with the want. I sit with it for a minute. Because before I was like, I want a cocktail. All right, let's make a cocktail. So now it's like, yeah, this is also Eckhart Tolle, by the way. He teaches you how to do all of this stuff. Sit with the want. And what I do is I remember, because it feels good to drink, but I also remember how awful it feels. But then I just think, okay, let's think of I can go back to a time when I'm having a cocktail and feeling good and enjoying myself. Well, I can just go back and think about that while sitting drinking my water and not actually having to deal with the cost physically, emotionally, financially of actually drinking. So I find that really helpful. I've also not putting too much pressure on myself. Now I'm talking this about drinking, but I think this goes to anything, of not putting so much pressure on ourselves to, when we commit to doing all these things, right? I'm going to do inner work. I'm going to eat better. I'm going to not drink. I'm going to, like, refresh my apartment, whatever. We put so much pressure on ourselves to do it perfectly and to say, well, like, I went out the other night, I had a couple cocktails with friends. Now, before, I would have been like, okay, you messed up. Now we're drinking again. Where it's like, no, I was out. I wanted one. I had a couple. It was fine. And the next day I didn't. Because I didn't make such a big deal about it. Because it's not about perfection. Which I'm finding very helpful. Because I think that we all... it is so hot in my car. I'm sweating. I can't have the fan on because it makes too much noise. But I think, especially with Instagram, and I hope that I don't do this, because I know that you look at other people and you think of how, like, oh, they exercise 3 times a day, or oh, their apartment's perfect, or they look this way, or blah, blah, and you think that it's all about perfection. And I realize that my outward image, especially in terms of how my apartment is perfect, but that's just, I'm incredibly neat. This is the way it always looks. That's, but my joke was always, my mess is inside my head. But now a lot of that's gone too, because I've done the work. But this idea of perfection, of you have to look good all the time, or you have to be doing the right thing all the time, and you have to be eating the right thing all the time. And if you don't, now everything you've done is ruined, when that is not healthy, it's not realistic, and it's not helpful. Every choice that we make all day adds up. And to limit ourselves so rigidly, what's the fucking point? Because the truth is, no one's perfect. I'm not perfect. My apartment's perfect, okay? But it's also a shitty studio a cheap, shitty studio in a nice neighborhood, but this is a shitty apartment. It doesn't look shitty because this is what I do for a living. But the truth is, this is a shitty apartment. So, you know, no one is, like, no one's perfect. And the idea of comparing, and I do it too, believe me. I look at these, I've started unfollowing a bunch of different people because I don't want to look at someone and feel bad about myself. And I don't want anyone looking at me and feeling bad about themselves. I think that's just, I mean, we already feel bad enough as it is. I don't want to make anybody feel bad, and I don't want anybody making me feel bad. Okay, so we're doing the step back. I'm looking at everything. Now I'm working on my emotional. We talked about the physical environment, my physical health. Like I said, I went back to the doctor, and I just realized I'm sitting there, and I'm like, well, let's call the doctor. And it's like, well, the appointment, it takes 3 or 4 weeks to get an appointment with a gastro. Okay, well, 3 or 4 weeks is going to come and go anyway, so just make the appointment. Repaint the floor, do all this stuff. So I've done all that, and I bought my treadmill, which is outside in the hallway. If you guys have been following, it weighs over 100 pounds, so it's in the hallway. And once I'm done with this, I'm going to unpack it and get it set up, and I'm going to tell you guys how I like it. I really hope it's not broken out of the box. I hope it's good, because I realized with all of this, talk about a solvable problem, right? I used to look a certain way. I got sick with this mold allergy, this intestinal. I gained weight. I got bloated. And now I don't look the way I want to look, even though I've lost a lot of the weight and the bloat. At the doctor, I got weighed, which I don't have a scale. And I realized I am at the weight I think I am. And I have a few more pounds that I would like to use. And maybe that's not PC anymore. We're not allowed to say these things, but it's the truth. I don't know, maybe because I'm Gen X, I'm allowed to say these things. But yes, I do. My body doesn't look the way I want it to look. And so I said to myself, well, this is a solvable problem. You just need to upgrade your workout routine. And the truth is, and this is a lot of things that I talk about with my clients when we're talking about how to set up the space, and maybe this person isn't as neat, to know yourself. And, we're all adults here. I don't work with 5-year-olds. I mean, sometimes I do, but most of the time I'm working with an adult. And as an adult, we know who we are. We know what our limitations are. And you need to work with them rather than against them. A lot of my friends join the gym, join a running club. I can't run. I'm not running. Go to the gym. I'm not going to the gym. I used to go to the gym. I didn't particularly enjoy it. I don't particularly enjoy working out around other people, especially now. Everyone's just like, girls are in their underwear and they're taking photos of themselves. Like, and then, not interested in going to the gym. And also, I don't have the money to go to the gym. I would love to do Pilates, which eventually that would be my goal. There's a lot of Pilates studios around here, but it's a cost that I cannot afford right now. It's a cost that I choose not to spend on. And in high school, I did the speed walking, that really, really weird walk that you do. And it's such a good exercise. And I was like, you know what? I would do that. If I had a treadmill in my apartment, I would do that 3 days a week. So working within my own limitations and knowing myself of what I will do, I've done that. So I've got the treadmill. I'm gonna keep you guys posted on how that's going. The other thing about my physical health, I have a lot of insecurities about how I look, and I've been doing different things. It's like, well, point things out and let's see how we can solve them. I've lost a lot of hair these last few years. And again, talking to a lot of friends and even just people online, I think it was the emotional stress of COVID, and also the emotional stress of what I was going through last year. I think that contributed to me losing a lot of my hair, and my hairstylist has confirmed that. So I'm using Nutrafol, which I feel like is helping. At least I'm not losing it anymore. But again, just kind of going through the checklist of, what don't you like and how can I fix it? Now, my next live will be specifically on my beauty routine. And during that live, I will confess to the one procedure that I've had done for, cosmetically, I've done a procedure, and I will share that with you next time. And I'm curious to see if any of you guys can tell what it was. And you won't insult me, so if you want to send me a quick DM of what you think I had done, but I will tell that in the next live, because I want to focus just on beauty routines, because like I said, I am 49 years old, and I think that considering Gwyneth Paltrow gives beauty advice, and that woman's hair is like hay. This woman has all the money in the world. Her hair is hay. Sun damage all over her face. She's dehydrated. She smokes. It's like, so if she can give beauty advice, I think I am qualified to give beauty advice. So that's going to be my next live. And the last thing that I'm working on, because again, you know, when you're trying to tackle a solution, things have to come from all angles. And I realize that I really need to focus on my finances. You know, taking as much time off of work I did has put me in debt. The truth is, it's mostly taxes. I have to put my taxes on my credit card. Don't judge me. See, don't you feel better about yourself? I'm sitting here in my beautiful apartment, and I've got tens of thousands of dollars of taxes on my credit card, and you probably don't. So you can feel good about that. And I need to focus on work. So again, along with the finances, is like, that's related to food. That's related to not eating out. That's related to going to the grocery store. It's related to not drinking. You know, what I'm doing in my apartment. It's like, okay, I would love to do maybe a few more things, but I'm not going to spend the money. But what can I have my landlord do? Like, I shouldn't be fixing the windows. I shouldn't be buying a new fridge. You know, so paying off that debt is really going to help me feel better, because I had a lot of debt 20 years ago, a ridiculous amount, an embarrassing amount of debt. Considering it's not like I owned a fancy car or, you know, crazy clothes or whatever. I just got into debt from just poor financial choices. And I paid all of that off. And for years, I was doing well, you know, in my mind. But taking the time off to do all this inner work, and taking time to step back from work to see, what does work look like now in 6 months, in a year, in 5 years. It's time well spent, and I'm glad I did it. This year has been the most productive year of my life for me personally, but not good for my American Express card. So I'm doing that. I'm also trying to focus more on work. I'd like to focus more on Instagram. That's why I'm like, you know what? I love doing these lives. I'm going to be doing, and I keep saying I'm going to be doing them more, but I really am going to be doing them more, because now I realize I need to focus topics. I need to do these AMAs for specific things, and not talk about like my last thing was like how to style a bookcase, and then how to work through past you know, sexual trauma that you've had. You know, that's I don't think that makes for a good live, because I think it might turn some people off. But I think you guys know how I am, and I tend to jump around. So yeah, I'm already reaching out to a few other people that I'm going to do combined lives with, which will be super fun and helpful for you guys on all the different topics of home design, organizing. I want to do one for personal styling. My next one is going to be on beauty. So let me know. So let me know what you guys think on future lives. If you guys ever have any questions, or if you're like, oh, I would love if you did a live on this topic, or a reel on this topic, or if you had a question, you know, you guys do send things in, so it's great. But yeah, so I don't know if you guys have questions. You guys can jump in with questions, and I know a lot of you here are people that followed me for a long time, so you know that I absolutely have no boundaries. You feel free to ask me anything you want. That's fine. But I will say that, you know, a few of the people, friends, family, blah, 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 whoever, that I've told about taking a break from the psychedelic therapy, they automatically assumed that it was a bad thing. And that, you know, you finally realize that it's not good, or it's not helpful, or you've had a bad experience. And technically, you know, it's hard to say that the last journey was a bad experience. It was awful, but it wasn't like a bad trip. I wasn't like physically sick. It wasn't anything like that. It was more of it was something that I needed to see. And sometimes what you need is the last thing that you want. And sometimes you need to hear something or see something that you don't want to because it's painful. But it is actually what you need to move forward or change directions. So that's how I see it. I don't see it as it was a bad trip. It was just a good I don't know if I have COVID brain or something. I can't get the words out. It was a good indicator that I needed to stop, and I needed to step back and say, like, I can sit here and do these journeys and just keep doing them once a month, but where is that actually getting me? And where it's gotten me these last year and a half, I'm very much a different person than I was before. I mean, I'm the same person. I just let go of a lot of the baggage. I mean, that's all it is. I'm not a different person. I don't have different values. I just have a lot of different bullshit that I'm carrying around with me. But again, you can do something too much and realize that maybe it's not. Now I'm just kind of like treading water, which is good. I mean, treading water is not drowning, right? I mean, you could go the other way. But treading water is not what I want to do. I want to move forward. So that's why I reevaluated and came up with all these different things that I can do. I don't know if you guys ever do that, if you guys take the time to sometimes step back and see, what's going on in your life that you can change and update, or if you've got insecurities that you realize, like, well, okay, if you're insecure, like I'm insecure because my hair looked bad for years, and I was like, well, talk to your talk to your hairdresser, get better products. Like, these are solvable problems. Why would you sit there and be upset that your hair looks bad when you can just make it look better, or get a different foundation, or grow in your eyebrows, whatever it is. I'm starting to ramble, and you guys know I love to ramble, and these lives cut you off at exactly 1 hour, and we're at 49 minutes right now. So so that's that. I always hope these are helpful.